I love my weird old Telecaster, and you're going to be hearing it quite a lot in amp and pedal demos on this new channel, so I thought I'd introduce it as I do get a lot of questions about this guitar. But first, let's hear it in action. This is a 2005 Fender FSR Deluxe Player Vintage Telecaster, and that's a long name for a pretty simple guitar. This model is quite rare. I heard that 150 were made in this sort of Mary Kay colour and 150 in a candy apple red double bound version. I've never even seen one of those, but it is on my reverb alerts, and you never know. So back in 2006 I was living in Greece, and there was a lot more potential for work playing electric guitar than acoustic, so something had to be done. Now I knew I wanted a Telecaster, and I really wanted a white one with a rosewood board. I was inspired by some of the great session musicians, Steve Cropper, Big Jim Sullivan, Jimmy Page, who'd all played similar guitars. I admit that is a bit totemistic, but you can get away with that with electric guitars. It can be comforting. So I went online shopping. Things were very different then. There were no helpful YouTube videos about this guitar, or indeed any guitars really. YouTube was less than a year old at this point. You had to rely on grainy potato pictures and a dealer description. It was a bit of a Wild West, but I found two of these guitars for sale in the UK. There was no chance of finding one in Greece, of course. So I called the first dealer, who was actually a bit of an arsehole on the phone and has since gone out of business. And then I called Coda Music, who were actually really helpful and are still going. There must be a lesson in there somewhere. So I ordered one of these guitars and a Cornford Hurricane amplifier. Nice. This telly's a bit of a mashup of vintage and modern. It's based on the perennial American 52 reissue, but it has some quirks that made it even more attractive to me. First up, it's got a really thin nitro finish, which, as you can see, has taken a beating over the years. Not by me, I should add, but more of that later. It has a pair of Fender Samarium Cobalt noiseless pickups. I know Fender noiseless single coils have had a bad rep over the years, but I thought I'd risk it, especially as a lot of Greek venues at the time had some idiosyncratic wiring that was just asking for buzzing and all sorts of on-stage noise. And quite honestly, I've never felt the need to change these pickups. I like the guitar as it is. There's also an S1 switch hidden in the volume knob, which in this case works in the middle position only and lets you go from parallel to both pickups wired in series. This gives you a sort of humbucker approximation, which I do use occasionally. It's not as massive a jump in volume as had been described online. I was hoping it would be, a really significant boost, but it's a nice thing to have. So we've got a maple neck with a rosewood board. There's also, inexplicably, a skunk stripe. You usually see these on all maple necks, so I'm not quite sure what it's doing here. There are also 22 frets on this neck, which is a bonus. It gives you the easier bend into the octave E, which can be very helpful. That does mean that there is an overhang on the fretboard, which is guaranteed to offend purists, but I'm okay with it. Now there is a bit of a mystery with this guitar because when I left Greece I sold a lot of equipment on my return to the UK, and the only thing I really regretted letting go was my telly. I loved that guitar and it had a lot of sentimental value. A few years ago I bought a FSR Deluxe Telecaster, which was objectively a much better guitar. It sounded incredible and it looked amazing, but I still missed my telly. It's a friendly telly, if you know what I mean. Some guitars can be indifferent or aggressive or aloof even, but when you find a good friendly telly you should hang on to it, and I didn't. However, one night in 2022 I found this guitar. An alert pinged on my phone at about 2 AM. I saw it, bought it immediately and then went back to sleep. And it arrived a day later. I'm honestly not sure if this is the guitar I originally bought in 2006, but as I say, I could only find one other in the UK at the time, and that guitar came up for sale on eBay recently with an original sales receipt with the owner's name. So it wasn't that one. It certainly feels familiar. It bears the scars of a full and varied life. I was very gentle with it, but it did have a couple of accidents, including launching itself into a Gretsch broadcaster drum kit during a studio session, which I thought was pretty poetic. Anyway, here it is, my weird old telly, 20 years old this year, and you'll be hearing more of it. Thank you very much for watching. Please do like and subscribe and tell me about your telly or any other guitar that got away. Sometimes they do come back.